Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Zamboni. I am an herbalist and astrologer. I am back in New York City for a couple of days. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for joining the Patreon and checking out the vast array of videos and on astrology and magic and how to get things going in your life. Thank you for getting a reading. Thank you for tipping via Venmo or PayPal or Cash App. Thank you so much for just being here in this space, paying attention, comment, sharing, saving this post. Thank you so much for doing all these things. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So we are moving into, all right, so this is our last week of Gemini season, right? We've got the sun in Gemini, and so the sun in Gemini is going to do the same square to Neptune in Pisces that Mercury has been doing for a little while now. Mercury is retrograde, we will recall, right? And so for a little while during this Mercury retrograde, we may have been seeing some difficulty in communication or delays or these kinds of things. I myself, my phone was damaged by water. Like, we've got this Neptune in Pisces, right? Super watery, and then Mercury retrograde square to that. So we see some conflict here. And so my phone was damaged by water. You may have noticed that I wasn't here last week, right? I'm now back in the United States where there is, where I have access to supplies and repairs and things like this, right? So I had to go back in order to deal with this sort of like technological difficulty, right? And so that's a really nice visceral example of the kind of things that Mercury retrograde square to Neptune and Pisces has been doing. The sun is going to make that same square. It's maybe not quite as dramatic as the Mercury retrograde. We're going to be seeing some of these same kind of things. This is also our last week of Mercury retrograde. At the beginning of next week, then Mercury is going to station direct. So we've got Mercury moving super slow at this point, slow and backwards. So we've still got some of the Mercury retrograde stuff that we can sort of imagine here, right? We can still sort of see some of the difficulties with communication, miscommunications, misunderstandings, all this kind of stuff. A need to go back and check it out, do it again, do-overs, like all of our rewords still show up this week. All of our regular Mercury retrograde significations, they're still going to be going on this week. And the sun making this square to Neptune, while it's not necessarily quite as dramatic as Mercury retrograde square to Neptune is going to be, or has been and is going to be one more time, this is still sort of like highlighting this situation. I often think about the sun as being the brightest object in the world, right? And so here we can think about spotlighting something. So whatever has been going on in Gemini for you, and there's been a lot going on in Gemini, right? Last week we had the solar eclipse here in the same area. So we had a new moon that was right there close to the nodes. The new moon came and conjoined the sun, and then and that cast a shadow, right? And so we had this nice, strong annular eclipse, right? My friend in Canada showed me a really beautiful picture that she had taken, and it was like perfect. This annular Eye of Sauron kind of situation. It was amazing, and so this situation really leads a lot of emphasis to whatever's been going on in Gemini. This continues this week, where whatever has been going on in Gemini for you, check what house this is for you, and this is going to be like kind of a big deal. This is continuing this story forward. We're not done doing the revising, the review, the editing. So this is going to continue. We can think about shining a spotlight on that. We're going to still be looking at this sort of stuff. The other major thing that's going to be going on this week is Mars enters Leo. So technically this actually happened at the beginning of last week, but I didn't talk about it last week because there was already a lot to talk about. And this is going to be a longer situation. So Mars takes about 6 weeks to move through a sign when moving at a sort of regular rate, which Mars is doing right now, or average, I suppose is maybe a better way to say that. So Mars is one of our, no-no boys, right? And so is Saturn, also one of the no-no boys. And so Saturn is in Aquarius, which is opposite to Leo. So Mars and Saturn are going to be opposite to each other and making some serious conflict for the next 6 weeks or so. We're going to be sort of seeing this situation. It's going to sort of build up for a little while. Saturn has recently stationed retrograde and is around 15 degrees, actually I think it's 13 now, of Aquarius. And so Mars is going to be sort of approaching that for a couple of weeks. And what we're going to get here is, so every time the moon especially is in a fixed sign, then we're going to have the moon being associated with moods and emotions and, the way that things feel and, the way that you take care of yourself or take care of others, any of our nurturing things, sleep, eating food, drinking water, all these kinds of things are going to see some conflict, right? Mars opposite to Saturn shows a pretty strong kind of conflict. This is Mars and Leo, right? Mars is a fire planet in a fire sign, Leo. And so this is very sort of inflammatory. This is really excitable and excited. It's really good for sort of pushing on things or, when if it's time to get ragey or aggravated or something like this, like maybe you're into the sort of like eloquent rage that Brittany Cooper talks about, or some of these kinds of things when it's time to like push on something and I can't take this shit anymore or something like this, then Mars in Leo is going to be really good for starting that fire, right? And this is not only opposite to Saturn, right? But we've also got this T-square to Uranus as well. So we've got Uranus in Taurus. And so we've been talking about Saturn square Uranus for all year at this point, right? This is the major story of 2021 and 22. And then Mars is just going to come through and sort of turn that up. It's going to like ignite that fire. So whatever has been going on with this Saturn Uranus situation, this is going to get ignited and sort of tipped off by Mars and Leo. So the thing about this is when the moon comes through here, then this is going to happen tomorrow on Monday. So in Monday and Tuesday of basically every week for the next month and a half or so, maybe 6 weeks or something like this, then the moon is going to be besieged by malefics. And so what this means is that the moon is going to conjoin Mars and Leo first, and then is going to have about 10 degrees of like moving through this area. That's about 1 day's motion when the moon will be applying to an opposition to Saturn. And then the next time this happens, then the moon is going to be in Scorpio, and that'll be Monday, Tuesday of next week. And so we're going to get a square to Mars, an opposition to Uranus, and a square to Saturn along this same timeline. So when that happens, besiegement is what this is called. This is like, it's very grumpy, right? This is a situation where we have to look at problems head on. You know what I mean? So this is helpful in some ways, right? Because it means when the moon is not in a fixed sign on those days that are not Monday and Tuesday, then the moon is going to be able to sort of like look the other way on some problems, right? And then when this happens, then this also puts us in position to hang out with Venus and Jupiter. So we've got Venus in Cancer right now, in a sign which is associated with the moon. And so whenever we've got the moon making aspect to Venus, then that's going to be cute and helpful, right? And then we've got Jupiter in Pisces, who's making an overcoming trine to that Venus. And so this is going to be especially helpful. This is especially beneficent and abundant, wants to grow things, wants to feel good in the water signs, right? Feels nice. And so we've got this sort of like very intense struggle that wants to happen in the fixed signs. But then kind of the rest of the time, then we get a little bit of balm. We get something that feels nice, right? This is one of the things that sort of differentiates 2021 from 2020, right? 2020 was like we didn't have benefics that were in good shape. We only had malefics fucking shit up. And now this year we sort of still have malefics fucking shit up, totally. But we have an opportunity to maybe look at something else, or to maybe find some healing, to maybe get a hug or two in, you know. And so we're going to sort of see this dynamic be played out for a month and a half, really, as long as Mars is in Leo. And so as long as Mars is in Leo, we're going to be seeing this kind of at the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, it really feels like Monday up in here, right? Difficulty, especially Saturn is associated with authorities or bosses or things like this. So and Mars is associated with like rebels and stuff like that. So we might see some beefing along hierarchical lines or power dynamics or these kind of situations showing up, right? All of our same Saturn stuff that we've been dealing with. We've been looking at Saturn for like 4 years now, right? Major Saturn, authorities, hierarchies, structures, all this kind of stuff. Mars is still beefing with that shit. Uranus is still beefing with that shit. And so we're going to see all that sort of wanting to flare up. This is a really good time as well to look at the pair of houses that are for you in Aquarius and Leo. And so maybe if you've got like, maybe you have Leo rising, for example, right? So then that's going to put Mars going through your first house and Saturn going through your seventh. And so there's going to be some issues around like some conflict, some tension between you and how you feel about yourself, and the opposite to that, the partner, or other people, the way you relate to other people, or any of this kind of stuff, right? Take a look at where Leo and Aquarius are in your chart and see what kind of house topics are associated with that. If you have further questions about this sort of stuff, check me out on Patreon. So we're going to see that sort of dynamic that really wants to get talked about on Mondays and Tuesdays, especially for the near future, for moving into the summer season, right? And then, I guess we could call it. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. I live in the north. Shouts to all of the southern hemisphere folks who are checking this out. I appreciate you too. So we're going to be seeing that kind of situation. But then as we move forward throughout the week, then we get to like hang out and do some beneficent stuff as well. And so we really get both of these things. We get the nice things and we get the rough things, and they're all just kind of mixed up in the stuff. And this is really nice, or like nicely resonant with the Mercury retrograde square to Neptune situation as well, right? This is all very confusing. It's all sort of like, I've been thinking about Neptune and Pisces as like putting stuff. It's very soupy. It's very like just all of the stuff in there, and it's all the one stuff, and like, can't you tell that it's all unified, and like, why are we doing any boundaries and all this sort of stuff, right? Put the water directly into my pocket where my phone is, right? This kind of thing. And so this is confusing. And so to have the good and the bad, the conflict and the resolution, the trauma and the healing all sort of happening, one after the next, and sort of in this cyclical motion, is really going to sort of end up with this big stew pot of emotions and feelings and all of the things together. And really this kind of, this is very much, I again and again, week after week, I say things like stay with the trouble, right? And so, this is really going to be important to like have it all together in this way, so that we can see the trouble. We're going to have to look at and directly engage with the trouble, with the conflict, whatever the major conflict of this moment in our lives is. That's going to be front and center in many ways, right? And then, but in order to deal with that, we're going to have to live with this. And so in order to do that, and in order to still live in a way that feels good, then we're going to have to find things that do feel good in our bodies and feel there's a sense of togetherness that the benefics like to bring up, or agreement, accord, harmony, these kinds of things. And so how does this sit with also the conflict, the major conflict, right? And they're side by side. These things are holding hands. And so how are we going to live with this? And this is the major question. And if it's confusing, then good, you're on time. If you think that you have it figured out, maybe you don't. I was just listening to, is a very difficult to pronounce name. It's Irish, Padraig O'Tama, something like this. Was talking about, he was talking about the way of like, just like sitting together, with the thing, and just having to be with it, and looking at reconciliation as, not, reconciliation is not the same as consensus. Everyone doesn't have to agree on everything, right? But we can still sit here in the same space and be with it, and stay with not only the trouble, but stay with as well the beautiful things, so that we can stay together, because diversity is the way that a strong network or a strong web is built. And so it's hilly, it's roller coastery, and we're going to do it. That's what we're going to do this week. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here with me. Thank you for sending your tips. Thank you for getting a reading. Thank you for joining the Patreon. Thank you for saving this video. Thank you for sending it to your friends. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for waiting for me last week. It was a lot, and I plan to be back on now. So check out the dailies. Check out all of the things, all of the places where I am, and where I'm so excited to see you soon. See y'all next week. Bye.